Questions, and we'll have a mic. We have a mic to go into the audience. Dan? Do we have a mic to go into the audience? Okay, we do have a mic to go into the audience. So I could act like Phil Donahue tonight, but I got the hair and everything going. But I could do that. We'll see. Do we have it? Is it wireless?
No.
No, then I can't do that. All right. I can't do that. So we're going to start. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please rise? The flag is here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you again so much for coming. This is Criminal Justice Day because I was on a hearing all day until about a couple hours ago in the City Council. And yesterday we also had a public safety, and one of the stars of the show was my first announced guest is the Chief of Patrol, Chief John Schell, right here. And he did a great job, so did the commissioner, the police commissioner. We have to fight now for public safety in this town, as you know. We have to fight for it, we have to show up to hearings, and that includes the public. You can, by the way, testify at these hearings on remote, on Zoom. So we're going to start doing that. I'm going to try to get our residents in the area. That's how we get the squeaky wheel. That's how we get noticed, and that's how we get better police protection. And by saying that we want police in our precinct, we don't want to defund the police. And this is, we back the blue in this neighborhood. Commanding Officer, Patrol Bureau, Queens North, Assistant Chief Christine Bastide. Commanding Officer of the 104, you all know him, Deputy Inspector Kevin Coleman. Commanding Officer of the 110 Precinct, which I'm going to get a piece of finally this coming next year, is Deputy Inspector John Portalatin. And you know, in the new council, and it's going to start January 1, I'm going to take in this way into Elmhurst, which is where I went to school, St. Adalbert's, and you know, had my paper route down by Seabury Street and all the areas down below. It wasn't great to have a paper route then, especially when I took two routes and we had a snowstorm of 20 inches and try to ride a bike in 20 inches of snow. But that's what I remember about my paper route down there. So, Commanding Officer of the 112th Precinct, Deputy Inspector Joseph Kappelman. And we call the next CEO Superman, because he looks like Superman. I always say, I hope I'm not embarrassing you, but Commanding Officer of the 102 Precinct, Captain Jeremy Kidlin. And the Executive Officer of the 108 Precinct, Captain Ramnath Ramloshan. And special guest, the Director of Queens County District Attorney's Crime Strategies and Intelligence Unit, Assistant District Attorney Shannon LaCour.
How you guys doing? My name is Al. I live in Middle Village. And just like the gentleman said, thank you for the service you do to the community. And I agree with him. There's a huge political division, not just in the city, but in the country. And we're not coming up with solutions anymore. We just keep pointing fingers at each other and blaming one party to the other, left to right, and all that good stuff. But that's not changing what's actually happening right now. So I might be a little lengthy, but I'm going to give you 3 or 4 incidences that have happened on my block just the last 2 to 3 months. First of all, the homeless shelter, right? That homeless shelter is garbage. It's promoting garbage in the whole neighborhood. People are coming out of that homeless shelter, they're going into people's yards. they're going up to people's houses, they're harassing people. When you try to complain about it, somebody's gonna turn around and say that we're privileged, and that's why we're stating that we don't want them here, and that's not the case. I don't care if the guy's black, white, yellow, red, I could care less. The guy's not doing, or the girl's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I don't want them near my house. So a few months ago, I had somebody come through my yard. I had an open driveway, which I've lived in this neighborhood since I was 10. I'm 52, so I never had these instances until this homeless shelter came to place. A guy came up my driveway in a hood and a mask. He left his moped in front of the house, and he came up to the yard, and he was trying to open up my backyard door. My wife, who's sitting right there, didn't realize it. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. I got home from work at 2:30 in the morning, so I was kind of still lounging out on the couch. She yells out, there's somebody in the yard with a mask. As soon as I jump up and go out, he runs out, gets on his moped and takes off. That's one. As a result of that, so she could feel safe, because I come home at all different times of the night with my job, and I leave early, I had to put a roll-up gate. And it cost me $3,500, and I had to make my house now look more commercial. That's one. Number two, about 6 weeks to 8 weeks ago, right in front of our house, in the corner, 4 guys in a car stop, and they start cutting a catalytic converter out. All right? Guys come out of the house to yell. The guy looks like he's got a gun, and he's waiting for somebody to stop him. So nobody's going to approach him. I'm not going to approach the guy, because I can't have a gun in the street, but he can. Right? He can. We call 911, I'm still waiting for the cops to come. On both instances. I called them that somebody was up my driveway, and the 911 operator said, is it an emergency? I said, well, he didn't come in the house, but if my wife would have opened the door as she was doing to go out for her food shopping in the morning, he may have done a home invasion. And then all bets are off. I'll be honest with you. Because at that point, I'll say it in front of anybody, I'll do whatever I have to do to protect my wife and my kids. I really could care less what happens to me. But this is what we're getting to in this city. I never had to think like this, okay? I never had any problems with the law. I'm a law-abiding citizen, pay my taxes. I send my kids to Catholic school. I try to do the right thing. But now, because of the division going on in the city, and the criminals have the rights and we don't, they're forcing us to start thinking like criminals. Because if we don't, we're not going to survive. We're not going to survive. You go up on Metropolitan Avenue, and you got people from that homeless shelter with their pants down to their knees, walking around, harassing store owners. I got videos on my phone from the bakery that somebody walked in, slapped the lady, took the tip jar, and walked away. There's absolutely no punishment for it. These guys are getting more and more brazen. I've called 911, we've talked to your office, and before you, we tried stopping getting that homeless shelter built, to no avail. Because we're labeled racist, we're going to be labeled as, we're privileged, and that's not the case. That's really not the case. We just don't want the criminals. We want them locked up, we want them away from our kids. The other night, my son had baseball practice at Artistic Stitch. So he went for his, they had batting practice from 8 to 10 p.m. So usually my wife goes and picks him up at 10, but I said, you know what, it's too late, and I don't like that area at 10 o'clock at night. So I go pick him up. And sure as hell, one of the guys from that center is outside, and he didn't realize I was in the car. My son comes out, and he starts harassing my kid. He starts cursing at him and yelling at him, and then I had to get out of the car and confront him. So eventually something is going to give with one of us, and we're going to end up in jail. And that's not right. That's not fair. Shouldn't have to live a whole life to get to the point where we're close to retirement, and I have to worry about now. I got two choices. I'm either going to stay in the city and deal with it, or I got to sell and move out of state. Because that's the only two choices left. That's the only two choices left. So people, I respect the people that, they want to worry about their mail and the graffiti and all that. That's all great. But we got some real problems here.
And let me just add to your story, because I met with Mike Dhaliwal, who owns 4 gas stations in Glendale. He said he considers it a successful day when he doesn't get somebody coming in and robbing him, whether it's at gunpoint, knife point. There was one the other day on Cypress. He says he loses $2,000 to $3,000 a week. And he's got to invest in technology that can get the money right into the bank immediately or within a half hour to an hour. But they hit him every day or every other day.
And that's not right. That's not fair.
He said that they're coming from the homeless shelter. I didn't tell him to say that they're coming from the homeless shelter. I said all of them. He said the vast majority. It's the same guy 3 times now.
It's 100%. We see him on the avenue every day.
But it is political. But I remember Deputy Inspector Fidicaro, your predecessor. He called me up one time and I said, how's the 102? How's everything going down there? And he says, Councilman, I keep rearresting the same guy for stealing cars. He steals a car, he's out the next day. He steals another car, he's out the next day. And so I called the DA's office and said, what's going on here? Unfortunately, property crime, and you guys are doing your job, but property crime, nobody goes to jail anymore for property crime. So why not? Because of the politics, which was mentioned before. The bail reform, it's not a violent crime, so there's really, we don't have to put them in jail. This is the mentality we're getting. The DA said, well, it's a whole bunch of things, Councilman. It's discovery. It's they take their time. Listen, half the jobs I think in the Bronx, half the arrests, they don't go to trial because they can't get past discovery.
Half the felonies.
The felonies. So listen to that. Even when you are arrested and there's a victim, many times the DA's offices are so overwhelmed they can't meet the requirements of the bail reform and discovery, meaning that they just drop the cases. And I said in front of, all the DAs were at the hearing yesterday, and I said, how do you tell a victim after they were attacked that the person that attacked you is on the street again? No penalties. You couldn't make a case. And it's difficult. They said, by the way, when our state officials, our assembly and our senators, when they passed this, they didn't give a dime of funding to the district attorney's office to do this. So they just said, here, deal with it. And how many ADAs have walked also? They just quit because they're overwhelmed with cases. So it's out of control. It's up to the voters just to say we've had enough of this. And that's where we got the silent majority has to wake up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Kathy. I moved to Middle Village when I was a child, and now I've lived in Glendale for well over 50 years. And got it?
No, you can go.
I can do it. Bob kind of beat me to the punch because what I wanted to talk about was not what the guys in uniform are doing, because we know you're doing a job. We're out there, we're working with you. My issue is with bail reform, and I'm directing it to the district attorney's office because number one, I clearly understand the evidence law and how your hands are tied and all of that, but what has happened is places like the homeless shelter in Glendale has become a dumping ground for emptying out Rikers Island. Now, that is now, I'm sorry, but that's exactly what it is. We've had a meeting last night with the homeless shelter, with DHS, basically useless. It was a CAB meeting, a community advisory board meeting is what it's called. It's not a community advisory board meeting, it's a public relations meeting. They come out and they try to make sure they shut people like me up so I don't go out screaming and yelling at my councilman, who, by the way, I'm being moved out of his district, I'm sad to say, and he's been the best councilman we've had for the past 20 years. Attorney's office, what are you going to do? You're assigning those people. You have someone in your office that when they come out of Rikers says where they, have control over this. I just don't understand. The police pick them up, bring them down, and they're back out. And this is not quality of life issues. These are crimes. People are being assaulted. People are being robbed. Homes are being broken into. And they're out on the street again. And it's not just the homeless shelter people. It's crime all across the board. And I know the police officers are working. We call them. They're out there. They call back. They tell us who's been arrested. Back out again. What is the DA's office going to do about it?
I'm gonna try to arrest Trump, that's his job.
Hi, so first, thank you for your question. I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. I'm Shannon LaCourte. I'm the Director of Crime Strategies and Intelligence at the Queens DA's office. Part of what I do is when our office is mostly doing reactive prosecution, someone commits a crime, police arrest somebody, I'm doing proactive investigations, addressing quality of life and public safety threats before they become problems. And that's a model that we set up in Queens under District Attorney Katz. When it comes to the issues you're talking about with respect to bail reform, you have to understand, and the councilman touched on it before, we are incredibly successful in Queens County in terms of when we ask for high bail amounts and remand on violent felony offenders, on getting judges to listen to our applications. Because part of what I do is, I go out and find the information about these individuals, whether it's someone who had a firearm and shot at somebody, someone who did a violent assault, or someone who has shoplifted at your CVS over and over and over again. I go out and I find the background information about that person and give it to an ADA who's standing up in front of a judge asking for that person to remain in custody. But what you have to understand is, based on what the bail reform law says, we are the only state in the union of all 50 states where we cannot ask for bail on someone based on a factor other than their flightless. That is it. Public safety is not a consideration. DA Katz, right, the only state. DA Katz has been out there in public saying consistently that should not be the case. We should be allowed to consider public safety as a consideration in bail. However, she's also said, and I agree and believe, that one person shouldn't be treated differently than another simply because they have money. So the system shouldn't allow for someone to get out of jail because they have money when another person doesn't. But we should be able to go in front of a judge and say, this particular person has committed crime after crime, doesn't show up for court, is a violent individual and a danger to society, therefore we ask them to stay in custody pending trial. The good news is that there is finally some traction at the state level, I believe, to potentially reform the reforms. So these reforms were passed in January of 2020, as the chief said earlier. They re-amended some of the laws after several months, which now allow us to ask for bail on what was a non-qualifying offense. So someone commits a petty larceny. That's their first offense, it's a petty larceny. We cannot ask for bail. Nothing we can do about it. We could say, Judge, we're asking for it, and the judge will say, legally, you're not permitted to do that. However, if that person commits another offense while they're out on that first case, now we can not only ask for bail on the new case, but we can revisit their custody on the original case. And we have done that in Queens. Last year, we did it in 750 cases. Now, our success rate is around 60%, which isn't great, but we're working on it, and we're out there evaluating exactly the issues that you're talking about. Because we know that one person who committed a crime, that the police have gone out, done their work, and arrested, when they brought them to us, their process, they go through the system, we're alerted in real time when they're arrested again. We have a system that tells us that. And if we don't get it through the system, one of these guys gals sitting up on the dais calls me and says, hey, X, Y, and Z person was arrested again. Please revisit their bail status. And we do that. and we're trying to do it as much as possible. We know the same issues that you're talking about. We know the same players that you're talking about, because I see the names over and over and over again. And the ADAs in my office and DA Katz sees those names over and over again and knows about the issues you're talking about, whether it's, again, retail theft, smoke shops, selling drugs, quality of life issues, or gun violence. So, unfortunately, unless and until the legislature changes some of those rules, we can't do anything outside of the tools in our tool belt, but we access every single one of those tools every single day. And then above and beyond that, I'm out there finding the little tidbits of information about these people that I can take to a judge and say, hey, you know what, this person is saying they've never touched a gun before, or they've never committed this kind of crime before, and I'm there with a photograph of them on social media holding a gun or a wad of cash that could choke a horse. And say, you know what, Judge, here you go. They can't afford to make bail. They are a flight risk. They should stay in. And that is working, but unfortunately, you have to do that one case at a time.
Right, and that's...
So, the phrase that the community needs to know is called harm versus harm. So harm against a person could be punching a nose. Harm against property could be stealing a bag of chips. So he's right, we have to start doing more, so when that person gets locked up on a Monday for punching someone in the nose, when he or she does it Friday, bail has to be set. Now, if 70% of 700, I want to know the judges' names, the other 30% that didn't do what they were supposed to do. So we can't, in fact, the judges play a big part in this. When it comes to bail reform, you know, it came from upstate. It didn't come from the city. I know, I'm just giving you a little for people that know. And it didn't come from the DA's office. And discovery is probably the biggest issue for the DA's office, because the staffing and the amount of work that goes into this is really hurting us. And from Al, the person Al was here before, and ma'am, you, I just wrote down 3 things. Bail reform, recidivism, no consequences. And this is why we were up 40% crime since 2019. Now, let me give you a little secret too. Parole. That's when someone's a convicted felon who goes to jail, and they do their time pretty well. And the judge says, you know what? We're going to let you out early. And we're going to let you out 2 years early. And years ago, fine. Rehabilitation, we're all for it. Redemption, we're all for it. Good. And when you come out of jail, you got to follow a couple guidelines. You got to be home by 9. You can't do drugs. And you can't commit another crime. Well, last year, there was a little statute changed upstate. Less is more. And those are technical violations that the parolee had to follow years ago that they no longer have to follow. So let me give you a little staggering stat on this. So last March or April, there was 197 people that violated their parole that went back to jail. They were all released, 197. About 105 of them, out of 167, committed a combined 635 crimes. Wow. Those are 635. Those aren't numbers. Those are our neighbors, those are our kids, those are our parents, and so on and so on. So this collective shift in crime, raise the age, bail, less is more, here we are. Came from upstate. So I think the council member, we got to get out, you got to voice your opinion, you got to show up meetings, you got to do what I do in my neighborhood. And go out and speak my mind like you're doing tonight. I know that's a big task, but this is where we're at.
And I fully understand, but I'm standing here talking to you, and I know what you're trying to do, and hearing what your program is and what you're trying to do with the amount of crime and amount of issues is now becoming a little even more frustrating. You're one person, one department. We have an entire community with crime going on, and maybe 1 out of every 100 is going to get fixed. It's very frustrating and becoming more depressing now that I understand it's only one person able to follow that up and go through it with I can't imagine how many arrests have been made or tried to be made or not even being made because it's not going to go anywhere.
I mean, what I'm doing, I have a team of people that work for me. So
I understand that.
It isn't just me, and there are 400 assistant DAs in the office and a support staff of 600 people. Notwithstanding those numbers, it sounds like a lot, but we are still drowning in cases because of discovery reform, because of the volume. You know, any one ADA can have dozens and dozens of violent felonies that they have to investigate, certify discovery, and ultimately prosecute and potentially do litigation like a hearing or trial. I'm one of the people in the office that helps enhance those cases, but they're evaluating it the moment an arrest is made. The police department is making contact with our office and providing us that crucial information. Some of it is done, most of it is done electronically on the back end.
I understand.
And our intake bureau gets that information, puts together a packet and sends it to the court. And they have a lot of that information at their fingertips, but the program that we're developing, which is being done in other boroughs, but frankly, I don't think as well as we're doing it in Queens, is to single out, again, from top to bottom, cases that involve quality of life issues, that involve violent felony offenses, in particular gun violence, to make sure that those individuals stay in custody. Because it isn't just the low-level crimes you're talking about. We have those issues with gun offenders. Gun offenders end up on the street. We go in, we ask for bail, we ask for $50,000, $500,000, $1 million remand, and we notice that individuals who are arrested with firearms come back and have a gun again. But it's not on our end, and it's not for a lack of trying, is what I'm trying to convey to you. And I don't want to paint a darker picture of it, because
It's dark.
I understand, but imagine you're an ADA, and the ADA who's drowning in those cases, trying to help public safety for you. They're in there with you, is what I'm trying to say. The men and women in blue are there with you, feeling the same way, but they are working hard, and our office and DA Katz is very, very adamant about those quality of life issues, getting individuals who are public safety threats and recidivists, using every tool we presently have at our disposal.
So I guess what I'm saying to you is we have a working relationship with the police department. They tell us what we need to do to try to make things, to assist them and get things done. I mean, we can't vote them out. These are our people, our city workers. Now we're talking politics here, and the only way we can get change is by voting out. And is that what we need to do?
Again,
I've taken enough time.
No, but
Thank
it
you,
is,
Kathy.
and I'm sure the councilman will talk about it, but again, our job as prosecutors is to follow the letter of the law as written. That I can't get political, right? I have to prosecute and investigate.
The questions you have to start asking your electeds is, and maybe your DA sometimes, right? 126 arrests. Were they all charged, were they all arraigned on burglary? Did you knock it down? Hopefully not. Then the next question, of the 126, how many were indicted? And then of the indictments, how many are off our streets? Those are real questions to ask. It's like, listen, I'm held accountable for what I do, and everything is. And the DA's working hard. Don't make a mistake here. They didn't make the laws. Discovery is really tough. But if we make an arrest, there's still a case to be done. There's still a case that has to come to fruition. So ask, arraignment, how many charges were knocked down? How many were indicted? And of the worst of the worst, how many went to jail? Those are the questions you have to start asking in the public forum. Those are tough questions, but they should have the answers, okay?
And Chief, one thing that I think we need to know, and also from the DA's office, and I was on the hearing with, all the DAs were complaining about discovery, even Alvin Bragg. All right? They were complaining that they didn't have enough funding, they wanted more funding, and there were 1,300 cases dismissed from Alvin Bragg's office that were felonies. And you know what? But you know what? You're obviously Commissioner Shea, the police commissioner before Sewell. He used to call my office, and we used to work with his office to find out what was happening, how many gun arrests, how many the same individual was arrested 7 or 8 times for guns. or for this crime or that crime. And we would get stats, and then we would write op-eds in the office and get that published and start educating people. We have to do more of that. We have to get some more facts and figures from the DA's office. What could we do as the public? And what are some horror stories that you're seeing? Who walked that should have gone to jail? I'm not saying that you should tell me how many judges are not doing the right thing, but I'd like that if you could. Because now, as an electorate, we can vote them out. Don't automatically vote for the judges unless you do research, because then we're going to get what we're getting now. Don't elect people, especially the Assembly and Senate, that ask them the question on, are they going to change this bail reform law? Are they going to do that? And if they give you the wrong answer, don't vote for them and actually campaign for their opponents. But that's what we have to do.
What about our appointed judges? We have no say.
I know, but again, who's making the appointments? Which party's doing it? This is what you have to consider. And we have to change things. We're not going to change it by having these meetings and nothing happens. So we have to come up with a plan. If your office lets me know, and you have the Common Sense Caucus in the council, 8 of us that go to hearings and just try to level out the playing field against the far, far left who don't want cops, don't want jails, and this is what they actually say. They live in a fantasy world.
I just want to go back to the death of service summonses. Where's the gentleman with Buster? All right, so the number was, for people jumping over the turnstile last year, 116,000 summonses versus 72,000. It's a 60% increase in those kind of summonses. But you know what? Everyone said, "Wow, we have to do a better job as an agency. We're trying to always control the narrative as to what we're doing." Right, so that's a large increase in death of service summonses. Just want to get that out there.
If I could also add to what the chief pointed out before, the CompStat numbers. We release a book every year that's similar to the CompStat book of those exact fact and figures that the councilman was talking about. It's on our website, queensda.org. It's our Brave Justice annual report. It gives you all the numbers of our total numbers of prosecutions, number of indictments, dispositions, all the information that you were talking about. So you can go in and see all that information for yourself and see what our success rate is. And frankly, it is the best in the city.
Sorry, what's that called?
It's called the Brave Justice Report.
Thank
it's
you.
on Queens DA's website.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Edward Masura. I have a couple of quality of life issues. 2 of them, just quickly, is one is all the illegal mopeds, electric bikes, motor scooters. I know this all started with de Blasio, where he made it okay for them to just go to the bike lanes. But there was an incident about less than a year ago, Bob Holden definitely helped me out with. I was on Elliott Avenue, about 72nd Street, when the delivery person on an electric vehicle going over 20 miles an hour ran into a woman. She had an infant in a stroller, and I heard this horrendous scream. Luckily, the kid was not hurt, but the fire department, an ambulance, and the police responded. When the police came, I talked to them nice and calmly. The first reaction from the police department, I asked them, I said, "Are you going to confiscate this illegal vehicle?" Their first response was, "Don't tell me how to do my job," which was a good thing because it got me a little bit riled up. And I said, "You know what? I probably would have just left there," and he was going to absolutely let them go. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to watch you now." So sure enough, they start to get in their car to pull away. I go, "Hey, what are you doing to this guy?" They said, "Well, we're not doing anything. He didn't do anything wrong." I said, "What do you mean he didn't do anything wrong? He's driving an electric vehicle that's illegal in a bike lane. Hit the kid, and you're not going to do anything?" So we went round and round, and the one officer spoke to his partner, and she said, well, I said, "Look, I'm not letting this go. This is illegal." So she said, "We'll call up our transportation person." So he got on the phone with somebody from Precinct in transportation, and I listened to the conversation. She said, "Well, does it have a VI number on it?" They said, "No, there's no VI number." "Oh, okay, then it's legal. Let him go." So they let this guy go. I went to Holden's office immediately, reported what went on, and it's a shame because here's 2 officers. Neither of them knew the law. And in speaking to other officers after this, I would say the majority of cops that I've spoken to, they have absolutely don't have a clue about the law with electric vehicles, mopeds, bike lanes. I'm an avid bike rider. I can tell you, I won't go in a bike lane because it's too dangerous. They're zipping in all directions on mopeds. They're going 40 miles an hour on a machine that weighs 50 pounds, and they're carrying another 50 pounds in deliveries. And it's just ridiculous. And there's no enforcement, because I can tell you, and I can see this all day long, they'll go in front of a police car, they'll do a donut with one of these things, and there's no response. The cops don't even flinch. I've never seen a guy pulled over once. You go on Queens Boulevard or Woodhaven Boulevard, you'll see 100 of them within 20 minutes. And they just go, and they're on the sidewalk, through the parks, you name it, anything goes, there's nothing being done. And I'm just wondering why nothing is happening.
You shot the video, right?
Yeah, I shot video.
Yeah, he shot a video of that, and I looked at the video, I looked at the model of the moped, it was an electric moped. I called the transportation officer in the 104. She said the same thing that you said, it's legal. I said, no, it isn't. We looked at the model number, it goes 45 miles an hour. 45 miles an hour, you have to have a license, registration, insurance. And then the police went to the gentleman's house and confiscated the vehicle. Thanks to you, again, we have to get involved. You see something, you all have cameras, you all have cell phones, smartphones. Do what he did, and I'm glad that you got involved, because we were able to get that vehicle confiscated, and the man was summoned. But that's happening every single day, hundreds of times a day in the city of New York. And I voted against legalizing these contraptions, and back in 2020, I was one of 8 members of the council that voted against it, I think, but it's here. I've called for all vehicles now that travel with electric assist or even gas have to be registered, insured, and a license. So there is a bill.
I saw a woman, an elderly woman, almost come inches away from getting hit from a scooter, and the scooter was driving the wrong way down the street.
Well, I just wanted to thank Bob, because you definitely made it happen, and things are better, but I don't see any changes.
No.
I see more, just like a daily thing, there's more and more of them, and to the point where I'm wondering why I'm driving a car. Why don't I just get a gas motorcycle and go anywhere I want to go, in any direction I want to go, and without stopping for lights?
Well, I tell you what, we're gonna try to change your mind. I'll be honest with you, and I know you don't see it, but we took over 10,300 ATVs off the streets last year, and 10,300.
If there was a crackdown,
Thank you.
I'm the guy that was in the Post in August. I got run over by an ATV on the FDR Drive. That was me. That was the chief that got run over in August. On the FDR Drive, my team trying to shut down traffic to corral what we all see here at night. Dozens of them driving together. We put a lot of hard work into this last summer, and they are not easy to stop. When you think about it, the two-wheel bikes, the ATVs, very difficult and very dangerous to chase. Thank God we still complain with our aviation units overhead to guide us as we did this. So I hope I can change your mind this summer, and we're going to put this way, every borough, patrol borough, Queens North, they're all getting wrap trucks with the lift. So we can put them on the back and put them on. And I'll be out there again, and hopefully I don't get hit by a bike. When I got hit by a bike, it was assault too, but it was downgraded to assault. That's a whole other story.
No, I appreciate what you're up against. I've seen the numerous ATVs and dirt bikes, 100 of them in a pack in Manhattan. And I understand the police can't chase them. I know what that's all about. But my last item was just quickly for the DA's office, basically, is graffiti. I'm just wondering how many people are being arrested, or is anything being done? If you come off the LIE at Woodhaven Boulevard, there's a building that's been graffitied. I complained about it over a year ago. It's a commercial building. If you turn into the neighborhood, I can't understand why a decent person would want to live here. You come off the highway and you come into this neighborhood, it's like, welcome to the worst place in New York City. I've worked on jobs in the South Bronx. I can tell you, the South Bronx doesn't have the amount of graffiti that we have in this neighborhood.
Member, Chairman of the Queens County GOP. What else, Tony?
I think before you run out, I think I showed you the Petrosino Society. They had the honoring of Epic Calvary Cemetery last week. It was the 118th anniversary of Detectives Petrosino, who started the bomb squad in New York. That's how great the New York police are, and I commend everybody here. Doing a great job. I just, my thing is that I'm the president of Juniper Park. I'm what you call the sewer where everything flows into. So the thing is, I just want to say quickly, I know you have to go. DA, why would we have anybody have a flight risk? I'd stay here too if I could rob and not get charged with anything. I'm not getting anything, I'm robbing, and I get free tickets to the Mets. So why would I leave? It's the best gig going. I want to say, the inspector, Deputy Inspector Coleman, doing an amazing job. The 104th, let's hear for that. Amazing job. What we have here is we have over 200 acres of cemetery. We have Ridgewood eating up all our resources. The bottom line is, because I want you to leave, even though I like you, we need more police. The man is a magician. This deputy inspector's a magician. He's running here, he's running there, going around 200 acres of cemetery. There's so much stuff going on. When I grew up, the silent killer was a heart attack. Now it's an electric bike. We're coming to the point that's it's hysterical, but it's sad. We have these left people saying they want to decriminalize sex, decriminalize drugs, and get rid of the police. So now we have no sex, drugs, and no patrol. They don't want no police, but we want police. Yes. We want police. Yes. This is a great neighborhood. Look at the age of here. I'm not saying they're old, but look at the neighborhood. We don't want bicycles, we want shopping carts. We have to get more police here to help the deputy inspector. He cannot physically, humanly cover the whole area with the little patrol that he has. We need tow trucks. We have brand new fire hydrants coming in, but they're all blocked by illegal people parking.
Yes.
And most of them are overnight commercial vehicles.
Yes.
We are, as a safety factor, we have to have more police. I'd be the first one to say the police should get a raise. They're getting shafted all the time. We understand your hands are tied. Believe me, I know. And I know the DA's hands are tied. But let's go by what's not tied. Let's give these people so they can walk to the house without getting run over by an electric bike. Let's give them something where they go outside, they know their fire hydrant is clear without a commercial vehicle there overnight. Let's give them something so we say, hey, we're staying here, we're not running to Florida. So this is what we're asking for, bottom line, with all the civic and with the homeless. Let me tell you something. There's no neighborhood, Maspeth, Middle Village, Glendale, Ridgewood, all of them, that is as generous to everybody as they are in philanthropy. We don't mind a homeless shelter. We don't want a shameless and ruthless shelter. And that's what we have. We have shameless and ruthless people here, and I want to make sure that everything is reported to make sure that shelter is closed, because it is a disgrace to this community. You talk about you want to build up crime cases. I had a young lady getting her hair done or her face done inside the Atlas Mall. Next door is Ulta. Am I saying that right? Ulta? Ulta just got robbed. Somebody walked in, they took a black bag, they put all the stuff into the black bag. They said, well, why didn't you do anything? They told us not to touch them. They're trying to build a case against them because they're from the homeless shelter and we're trying to build a case against them. How long before this man goes out of business before we build a case? I have a small business. I was robbed. Down the block here, the Moose Lodge, robbed twice. It's not the deputy inspector's fault. It's he has no people to patrol the areas. We need more police. We need more presence. And if they see more presence, then we won't have all these problems popping up. And you know what? You see this commercial guys, give us a tow truck. It's a home run. You're making revenue, you're towing the cars, we're safe from fires, we won't have all these commercial vehicles, and it's a home run. I don't want to...
Much. Two things. I thank the police for everything they're doing, and out in San Francisco, it was on the news the other day, people that had voted against the police department are now asking for overtime so that the police can do their job. The second thing is, regarding the gentleman with the cement trucks, he's absolutely right. Yes, there is legislation on the books. The problem is enforcement. And I can offer a solution to this. Number one, the containment devices should all be the same color, preferably a nice, bright, reflective orange, which can be easily seen because owing to the nature of the cement business, it's going to wear out and get faded. The second thing is conduct stops for the cement trucks the way it's done with other commercial vehicles, for instance, in front of Mount Olivet Cemetery. Check their paperwork, check their weight condition and everything else, and in this case, we check for the containment device, and I'm quite certain we can get better enforcement and compliance with this. Thank you.
So we have 10 more minutes, so we'll follow with these questions. Try to have a question for the police officer.
My question is simple. I know that police officers have the device which is sending electromagnetic impulse and can shut down the drones. And what about, could you ask for device or use that same device to shut down those electric scooters? Because they have also electric engine. Maybe that device would be a little bit more powerful than the device which is shooting down those drones. This is not going to shoot down anything, just turn off that engine. Anytime they go over red light, just shut down the engine, that's it. If you have much device for drones, this is
we don't have anything like that right now. That is something that we would have to put through policy, go through the legal department, but that's an idea that we can bring back. So that's not something that we have right now.
See this electromagnetic pulse. I have another thing. I am 30 years, since 1990 in Middle Village. And my car was never stolen. That is always first time. You think it will not happen to you, it will happen to you too, in Middle Village. Now, when you call 911, it is taking 2 hours. And somebody is coming. They're supposed to fill out the paperwork right on the spot. I was sick, I got high fever. I was forced to go next day to Precinct 104 to get that paperwork. Thanks God my neighbors drive me that. Then, I was told that next day, detective will show up and he will check video cameras on Elliot, which way the car was taken. Nobody ever showed up.